I'm Schwerha with Campus Reform, and you're watching 5 Big Questions. Today, we're switching it up and speaking with a conservative professor at the University of Houston to hear a new perspective on how faculty can support ideological diversity and help conservative students on campus. Dr. Seema Nanda is the director of the Nanda Dry Eye and Vision Institute and a clinical professor at the University of Houston. She also serves as the faculty advisor for the Young Conservatives Texas chapter at University of Houston. She is also an avid supporter for freedom of speech. Dr. Nanda, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you. The honor is mine. I appreciate you allowing us to come out there and speak because that's what we're about, free speech, right?
Absolutely. I'm so excited to have this conversation too. And I want to start off with my first question. How do you balance your conservative values with your job as a professor at a more liberal leaning university?
I guess the answer would be very carefully. No, honestly, it doesn't come up. Nobody asks you, are you conservative? Are you liberal? It's through our actions. If you're a passionate teacher, the student really is going to gravitate toward that. They're not going to really be thinking about, is she thinking like this or is she thinking like that? Now, ideal when I'm in clinic, or we have students that run through our clinic and we see patients. And a patient doesn't say, I have, a liberal or I guess a conservative tag on their head. We just treat patients like humans, right? Same thing. The students look at us as passionate teachers. Now, it might be a little bit different on a political science type thing, but where the STEM classes are concerned, or at least the science and everything like that, we don't look at it. There's nothing to balance. Now, if somebody asks me, are you conservative? Well, first of all, I don't, go into that box that people look at me and go, oh, she has to be liberal. One, she's not white. And two, she's a woman. And since I have a biology degree, I know what a woman is. Anyway, never mind. So what I'm saying is really that there's nothing really too balanced because I don't look at it that my students don't look at me like that. So maybe on the other side of the campus, there might be an imbalance going on. And even if it is, just know that you're there to learn. So if the professor starts deviating off there, like, what does this have to do with microbiology, right? What does this have to do with the science? Just teach me the classes I need to learn because I got to get this degree and go forward.
Absolutely. And that's so refreshing to hear because here at the Leadership Institute's Campus Reform, we hear countless stories and countless tips from students who complain about the professors just being overtly liberal. So it's nice to hear the other side of the aisle as well is available on campus. But also, like you said, students are there in the classroom to learn. There shouldn't be a back and forth on politics. They're there to take their classes to get a degree. When we're talking about politics on campus, you also advised the Young Conservatives, the Texas chapter at the University of Houston. Can you tell us a little more about what that role entails?
Well, that's interesting because how I ended up being is just, I think, an act of God, really. One of the students happened to be at one of the conservative political action committee meetings. It was in Dallas. It's called CPAC. And they were, they had a booth and everything. And they said, hey, we're here at the university and we'd love to be on campus. But the problem was we can't be on campus because we don't have an advisor. And lo and behold, I happen to be a professor at the university. So I said, well, what do you need to do? You need me to sign something? Yeah. So I went to a few meetings and I was watching them. And, there were just a few students at the time. And I said, do you want to step this up a game? What is your goal? What do you want to get out of this? Do you just want to have a small group of people that you feel safe? Or do you want to expand and grow? And that's when I realized that was my role, to allow them to expand and grow. I had them plant the seed. Now it's my turn to fertilize and watch it bloom. And so what we're trying to do is get more and more students that have the same philosophy that don't even know that they have a place on campus that they can go and talk to. And one way by doing that is tabling. And tabling basically means you are out in the patio or the student center or whatever, and they have the table out there and they just have a sign that says, and they usually have a question of the day. What do you think about this inflation? Or how do you like those gas prices? And that stimulates conversation. And then the students come up to them, random students. I'm like, well, I don't like this. Or what do you feel about the decision with Roe v. Wade? Or what do you feel? And that stirs conversation. That's the whole thing. Ability to talk to one another and see different viewpoints. And then if they align with our viewpoints, they're like, can I join? Yeah. And so I feel it's like more of a nurturing experience trying to get them. And then I bring the community which is all around Houston, to let them know that this conservative group is on campus. And we need to support them in any way we can, by having lectures, speakers, different things like that. So I'm kind of blown away how much it's grown, really.
No, and that's absolutely great. And that is a complaint that a lot of students have who are trying to start these conservative clubs on college campuses, is that they can't find an advisor and therefore they don't meet the criteria to be a registered student organization. And RSOs have a lot of perks. They're able to secure university student fee funding, they're able to reserve space on campus. So it's really vital that students have this opportunity. So, what impact can professors have on the students' college experiences by just being willing to serve as a club advisor?
Well, that's interesting too, because one thing is you have to find them, right? Now, mine was lucky. Or they found me. I found them. Kind of, again, I think it's God, but never mind. But finding that professor, it's kind of easy to do if you really think about it. Find the professor that's passionate about what they're doing and they're teaching, because they're really concerned about teaching. Usually you'll find that, like I said, in the STEM classes, the science, the technology, those things. Kind of stay away from those professors that are showing their ideology in a history class or a liberal, they change history to make it to what they want. So minus those. But if you find that even a professor who might not necessarily be totally right of center, but somebody in the center, they're looking for students to nurture and grow. And that's kind of how I found it. I didn't even know that I could do this. I said, okay, but I find now myself, it's opened a different door for me because it's allowing me to enrich the lives of our future generation, which is like mind blow. I don't know. I don't know how else to describe it. I find that now it's like giving me another purpose, not just the science world of teaching, but future leaders. You got to remember, these are going to be our future doctors, future lawyers, future politicians, future teachers. And if you can allow them to grow in, again, a safe environment, because they don't feel safe, they feel there's a lot of fear on campus unnecessarily, um, by 2% of the population telling 98% what to do. And that's not right.
Right. And to shift the conversation a little bit, one topic that's very important to you that I've noticed in our past conversations is freedom of speech. And here at the Leadership Institute's Campus Reform, we often report on university policies that stifle speech on campus. So, how do you think universities can better commit themselves to being tolerant of free speech and intellectual diversity?
The first thing they really need to do is stop the penalty, the policies of penalizing free speech. They really need to get rid of that. Another thing they need to do is this anonymous bias reporting, because a lot of the times somebody can come out there, accuse a student of doing something they didn't like, do it on the internet, accuse them of something, and then that administration goes and attacks that other student, and the other student doesn't even know what happened or why they were being accused. So those are the important things. Stop penalizing the free speech of those, or get those policies out there and allow the students to do what they need to do. And they might not even allow it. They might be more clever about it. One of the reasons I say that is we had an event on our campus with a controversial speaker. And the reason why we brought that controversial speaker is to what? Create controversy, right? We don't want somebody who's going to be just a robot who's going to repeat things that they want to hear. We want somebody to have diversity of thought. So how did the campus react to that? Instead of saying you can't have it, they decided to increase the amount of police that we had to have at this event. Okay, well, I can understand that. You're worried about, riots or something on campus. We know things happen on campuses that they don't agree with, so they try to stifle it that way. But instead of them taking the lead by saying, okay, we're going to have more police presence, instead of them taking care of it, they made us take care of it. In other words, it started with one police officer, then two, then five, then 10, then 15. But we were supposed to cover the cost of those 15 police officers. If they were so worried about it, then they should have covered the cost, but they weren't. That was a tactic they were using to quieten free speech. So then we have to ask, at every event that you have, do you always have 15 officers there when you have another person that is more of a liberal concern versus a conservative concern? At that point, they had nothing to answer because they themselves realized that they were being draconian in the amount of people we had. So anyway, long story short, just cutting that, penalizing us through whatever means, through either monetary or through either just saying you can't have this on campus or not, or allowing anonymous reporting. That has to stop.
And my final question for you, what is one thing you needs to be changed about today's higher education system to ensure that all students feel comfortable on campus?
Preventing administrations having overreach. Allow the students to blossom. The university is there for free thought. These are kids that are coming out of their homes. They haven't, the parents have been nurturing them the whole time. They've been, 0 to 18. Now they're out on their own and they're trying to develop their own ideology. When they don't allow themselves to speak, now fear is okay. Everybody has fear. It's a fight or flight type of phenomenon. That's the way our body's made up. But to quash that, it has a chilling effect on them, and it has a chilling effect and it stunts their psychological and physical growth, if you think about it, because they're not allowed to be themselves. Only a small percentage of the population is allowed to be themselves. Now, I can see the other perspective. They say, well, they don't allow us to be us. Well, everyone is allowed to be who they are, but don't push your philosophy on me. I don't care if you want to have green hair. I don't care if you want to have multiple tattoos and earrings and things like that, but don't make me have them. I don't want them. Same thing. I believe if you think this way, you're allowed to think this way, but then allow me to be me and think the way I want to think. Stop the overreach. It's okay. Let us grow, let us blossom, and let us professors allow the students to grow too, both in the spiritual sense, the way they think, as well as their studies, because really the bottom line is them to get that degree and be fruitful in society. Isn't that the truth? And that's the thing. Seek the truth.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Nanda, it has been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Oh, thank you. I appreciated the opportunity to come out there and speak for campus reform. And I do believe there are a lot more professors out there like me. You just got to find them because they're there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.